It's happening, folks. The unthinkable. Chuck Schumer just triggered the biggest political backfire in modern history, and it's not coming from Republicans this time. It is actually coming from his own voters. Now, for weeks, Democrats, they swore the shutdown was going to be Trump's fault. That's what they said. Oh, the shutdown is Trump's fault. He's the problem. They said that Republicans were the ones that were starving families, that Republicans were blocking aid and holding America hostage. But tonight, the truth is out. It's Schumer's shutdown, and the world knows it. In fact, millions of Democrats, yes, even Democrats, are waking up hungry and furious. 42 million Americans, mostly in blue states, they're finding out the hard way that their food stamps, their food benefits, SNAP, EBT, all of it, they're all on hold because Chuck Schumer refused to pass the clean funding bills President Trump already signed off on. Now, I want you to think about that, all right? Families without groceries during Thanksgiving week while Congress keeps collecting a paycheck. Does that sound fair to you? Drop a fair down below and drop an unfair if you think that's unfair. Now, then, of course, like gasoline on a fire, House Democrat leader Katherine Clark goes on live TV and says the quiet part out loud. She wasn't supposed to say this. Anyway, she said, of course families will suffer, but this is one of the few leverage times we have. Leverage? You mean starving your own voters is leverage? You mean making single mothers and seniors panic before the holidays is a strategy? This is not leverage. This is lunacy, guys. It is cruelty dressed up as politics, and this time it is backfiring so badly. Even CNN and CBS, they're all calling Schumer out. You got Democrat voters burning up the phone lines, food banks overwhelmed, and liberal strongholds like Chicago and Philadelphia turning on the very party that they have supported for decades. Ladies and gentlemen, we've seen a lot of political disasters in Washington, but this one right here, this is the shutdown heard around the world because the Democrats didn't just lose control of the narrative, they lost control of their own base. So tonight, I want to break down exactly how Schumer's leverage plan turned into a humanitarian nightmare and why 42 million Americans are caught in the crossfire and how President Trump just walked away looking like the only adult in the room. Hit the like button, subscribe, guys. This is the episode that ends Schumer's illusion once and for all. Now, it all started as a political stunt. Chuck Schumer's so-called leverage, right? So he thought if he could freeze Washington, starve the headlines, and blame President Trump, the public would fold. But the gamble has detonated in his own backyard. You see, guys, poll after poll now shows the shock, a collapse in Democratic trust, especially among working class voters who depend on SNAP. Now, these are the same people who carried Biden's mail-in miracle in 2020. They're now looking at empty grocery carts, empty shelves, and saying, enough. Chuck Schumer promised compassion, but instead he delivered chaos. The Hill, Rasmussen, and even Politico, they're all reporting a very sharp turn in independents and Democrats shifting their trust back to President Trump, who's calling for an immediate reopening of the government, mind you. The irony, the more Chuck Schumer doubles down, the more his own voters defect. Now, this isn't just a shutdown anymore, guys. This is a mirror. And in that mirror, America is seeing who's really caused the pain here. And of course, the story that he tried to weaponize, it has turned around and bitten him in the face. And so now I want to talk about the heart of it all, okay? I want to talk about the SNAP crisis itself. 42 million Americans, most of them in blue states, are staring at benefit cards that may stop working by November 1st. Think about that for a second, okay? I'm talking about families in Detroit, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles. Democrat strongholds are suddenly asking, where's our help, right? Oh, and here's the kicker. It's happening just before Thanksgiving. Imagine parents explaining to their kids why the fridge is completely empty. All you see in there is like lettuce and some ice. Meanwhile, Congress goes home for recess, paychecks intact. They're not worried about Americans not getting their SNAP benefits. This is more than an economic crisis. This is an emotional revolt. Now, people who once worshiped the idea of Democrat compassion, they're watching the mask slip. They're realizing that this isn't about helping the poor. This is about holding power. And that's really all it is. Every call to reopen SNAP, every plea from governors, every news alert of food banks running dry, it is all pointing back to one man, Chuck Schumer's. Now, his shutdown didn't punish Trump. No, it punished the very people who believed in him. Most people don't wake up until it's too late, until their Medicare plan fails them at the pharmacy, the doctor's office, or even in the mailbox. And now many seniors are getting letters straight from their doctor saying, we will no longer accept your insurance next year. Call Chapter to get new coverage. Now, don't wait for that letter to show up. Make the call today. That's why I partner with Chapter. They wake people up early while there's still time to fix their Medicare coverage. Now, one of our viewers, she said, I wish I had called sooner, but I'm glad I finally did. So let me ask you, are you going to keep sleeping on it, or are you going to join the thousands who are already awake? Now, most people, they're already dialing that phone number at the bottom of your screen, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. That phone number again is 909-563-8279. Oh, and listen to what one of our own viewers wrote after doing just that. So this one came from Asoros Golden, said, hey Ron, I called Chapter and used your name. Seriously, it is open enrollment and I knew who I wanted to switch to, but was so confused about the different plans. I talked to Tyler and he was so helpful, even compared all the plans that they have and pointed out where I could save money and what the yearly cost might be. Seriously, thank you. I didn't want to call them because I don't like sales, but you were right. I am now very happy I called and know I made the right choice for me and for my husband. And best of all, they took care of the enrollment for us, 30 minutes from start to finish. Hey, I just love the good news. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then, of course, came the moment that blew the lid off of everything. House Democrat leader Katherine Clark sat down for an interview and admitted what no one was supposed to say out loud. She looked right into the camera and said, of course families will suffer, but this is one of the few leverage times we have. Leverage? That single word right there spread like wildfire across Americans. Millions of Democrat voters, single parents, seniors, veterans, they heard that and they realized that they were the bargaining chips in Chuck Schumer's power game. We were the pawns. Hashtag Schumer shutdown trended for 3 days straight. Even left-leaning independents were horrified. It was the mask off moment. This was proof that this wasn't about funding or fairness. This was about control. Chuck Schumer called it strategy. Voters called it cruelty. And once the mask slipped, you couldn't unsee it. Even CNN hosts began squirming, trying to spin the comment that turned compassion into political blackmail. So while Chuck Schumer's team was talking leverage, House Republicans were taking action. Speaker Mike Johnson moved very fast, passing clean mini bills to fund the military, veterans, and SNAP benefits. They were ready to protect families and reopen the government immediately. But when those bills hit the Senate, Schumer blocked them, flat out refused them. Not because they were flawed, but because passing them would destroy his narrative that Republicans are heartless. Meanwhile, President Donald J. Trump stood firm, calling for unity, responsibility, and compassion, put food on every American table, he said. But Schumer didn't want solutions, he wanted headlines. He bet that America wouldn't even notice who was actually holding the line. Now, it is impossible not to see it, really. I mean, look, every bill blocked, every family hungry, it all leads to one office. The shutdown Schumer thought was going to hurt Trump has actually turned into the rope that's politically strangling his own party. And so when even the mainstream media starts breaking ranks, you already know that the tide has turned. For years, Schumer and the Democrats could count on outlets like CBS and MSNBC, the New York Times, The Hill, CNN to carry water for them, to twist the story, to shape the spin. But not this time. The images were just way too real. They were way too painful. They were just way too close to home, if you know what I mean. CBS aired footage of parents at empty food banks. Their SNAP cards declined. And then came that moment. Hakeem Jeffries being grilled on live television about his rigged election rhetoric. He stumbled, deflected, blamed Republicans, and the anchor didn't let him off the hook. In fact, even The Hill, a paper once careful not to offend Democrats, ran the headline, Schumer's leverage strategy risks political meltdown as SNAP crisis spreads. Now, what if I told you that the meme coin that the elites laughed at is now being run like a Fortune 500 company? What if I told you that the same currency that once started as a joke on Reddit has just built its own Wall Street empire, a move that's so bold that it's actually sending shockwaves throughout the financial world? Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Trump era of crypto capitalism, where American innovation, independence, and disruption are back in charge. Because today we're talking about Zone, the official Dogecoin treasury listed right now on the New York Stock Exchange under ticker symbol ZONE. And right alongside it, the Dogecoin Foundation's corporate arm, House of Doge, is trading on the NASDAQ under ticker symbol TBH. Now, this video is sponsored on behalf of CleanCore, the parent company powering Zone and redefining what financial freedom looks like in 2025. Now, think of it this way. If MicroStrategy built Bitcoin's institutional future, Zone is doing it for Dogecoin. Now, here's a twist. While MicroStrategy stores Bitcoin, Zone builds, grows, and multiplies Dogecoin. Led by Chairman Alex Spiro, yes, Elon Musk's own lawyer, and CIO Marco Margiotta, a payments veteran who sold his last company to Fiserv for $270 million, Zone is executing faster than anyone had expected. In fact, in just weeks, the official treasury accumulated over 710 million Doge, with more than $20 million in unrealized gains. They're targeting a full billion Doge within 30 days. Backed by powerhouses like Pantera Capital, Mosaics, Falcon X, and GSR, Zone raised $175 million to make Dogecoin a global reserve asset held securely by Bitstamp by Robinhood. Now, this isn't crypto chaos. It is organized financial warfare against the same broken system that President Donald J. Trump has warned us about. So while the establishment weaponized inflation, Zone and the Dogecoin Foundation are building the rails for a parallel economy, one rooted in sound money, transparency, and freedom. And with House of Doge driving payments, ETFs, and merchant adoption, Dogecoin isn't just a meme anymore. It is a movement with muscle. Now, before you rush to buy, I want you to remember, I'm not an investment advisor, and this is not investment advice. Always do your own due diligence before making any financial decisions. But one thing is very clear. Zone isn't just holding Dogecoin. It is holding the keys to its future. Like, subscribe, share this, because history is being written, and this time it's written in Doge. And just when you thought the Democrats couldn't get any crazier, well, they did. Then that is when the panic set in, guys. The walls that once protected the party, it began to crack. And the echo chamber Chuck Schumer relied on started echoing back something new. Accountability. So, by the way, how did you guys find this video today? Did you type in Ron Yates today, or maybe Ron Yates latest news? Or did YouTube finally recommend some truth in your feed for a change? I'm just curious to know how you guys found this video, but let me know in the comments down below, because, you know, however you got here, you're a part of the very few who are actually awake and paying attention. But meanwhile, out in the real world, the backlash was boiling. I mean, families from Chicago to Philadelphia, they began posting videos at grocery store checkouts, snap cards flashing, transaction declined. Those clips went viral in hours, guys. The hashtag snap crisis and hashtag Schumer shutdown flooded TikTok and X. Now, these weren't Republican voters. These were lifelong Democrats. They were the very people that Chuck Schumer once claimed to represent. But now they're asking, how can you call yourself the party of the people when the people can't eat? Food banks reported record surges. Local news anchors, yes, even in liberal cities, started asking some very hard questions. And suddenly, the political caucus shifted. Voters weren't just angry. They were awakened. They saw that while Washington argued, Congress still got paid, still got their little cushy paychecks. I shouldn't even say little paychecks. Most of them making well over $200,000 a year. And the people got punished. Now, this wasn't a shutdown anymore. This is a moral uprising. And the target wasn't Trump. It was Schumer himself. So as Americans struggle to feed their families, another bombshell dropped. Billions in taxpayer funds still flowing to non-citizens. So while SNAP benefits freeze for U.S. citizens, reports confirm that paroled migrants under Biden-era policies continue receiving Medicaid, housing aid, and work permits. Even members of the terrorist watch list slipped through. Now, that revelation set social media ablaze, guys. Democrat voters who once dismissed border talks as right-wing fear-mongering suddenly saw where their money was really going. Families in Detroit were asking, well, why can migrants get free health care when my benefits just vanished? And I think it's a valid question here. President Trump addressed it directly from the White House. He said, we will never again allow illegal entrants to eat before American families. Can I get an amen for that? The one statement electrified the nation right then and there. Now, for millions of struggling Democrats, the light bulb, it finally went on. Schumer's shutdown wasn't protecting them. It was protecting globalist interests. And once that truth surfaced, even loyal blue voters began switching sides. Now, behind the scenes, the panic was spreading through the Democrat ranks. Chuck Schumer's grip on the Senate is slipping as moderates clash with progressives that are demanding an even harder left turn. Rumors are swirling that AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and her squad, they're quietly plotting to challenge Schumer's leadership, accusing him of betraying the movement. Meanwhile, even veteran Democrats are terrified. They see their poll numbers cratering in swing states, their donors calling nonstop, their voters are turning on them. Behind closed doors, one aide told The Hill, it's like watching the party eat itself alive. Now, Schumer's leverage turned into a wedge that's splitting his own coalition in half. On the one side, the radicals want confrontation, but on the other side, the moderates are begging for survival. The party that once bragged about unity is now bleeding from the inside out. And all of it, every drop of it, can be traced all the way back to the shutdown that was supposed to hurt Trump but is now devouring the Democrats. So while Schumer's base imploded, Republicans seized the moral high ground. President Donald J. Trump, standing firm behind the resolute desk, addressed the nation with calm resolve. We will not allow Washington power games to steal a single meal from the American people. Now that statement right there, that cut straight through the chaos. Americans launched a unified message: compassion without compromise. They didn't gloat, they governed. House Republicans kept voting to fund the military, border security, and even food programs. Meanwhile, Schumer blocked every last one of them. And Americans noticed that. They saw Trump and House Speaker Mike Johnson focused on results, while Democrats were obsessed over leverage. Even independents began describing the GOP as the voice of reason. Yeah, seriously, guys. The narrative flipped overnight. Trump the unifier, Schumer the divider. Every news cycle that followed only amplified the contrast. And by the end of week 4, what started as a shutdown crisis had become a messaging masterpiece for the Republican Party. Then came the breaking point. The polls cratered, the headlines turned, and the internal pressure became unbearable. Now, behind closed doors, Chuck Schumer finally blinked. After weeks of defiance, he agreed to move forward with a Republican-backed continuing resolution to reopen the government, the very same kind that he once mocked. The symbolism could not have been any clearer, guys. The man who promised leverage now begged for an escape. Even The Hill wrote it plainly. Democrats' political advantage evaporates as shutdown fatigue erodes confidence in party leadership. Now, his so-called victory strategy collapsed under its own hypocrisy. Democrats lost credibility, the moral authority, they lost everything. The trust of millions of their own voters, gone. It's over. In fact, the GOP reopened the government. Trump's approval soared past 50%. In the end, Schumer didn't outsmart Trump. He outsmarted himself. And the surrender wasn't just political. It was moral, it was visible, everybody saw it, and it was historic. So what you're witnessing right now, folks, isn't just a shutdown ending. It is a political rebirth. For decades, Democrats built their brand on empathy, equality, and compassion for the working class. But in 2025, under President Donald J. Trump, that illusion has finally shattered. So when Schumer's shutdown starved 42 million of his own voters, the truth became undeniable. The party of the people doesn't serve the people anymore. And the people, the workers, the veterans, the single mothers, the retirees, they're crossing over. They're choosing leadership over leverage, results over rhetoric, and America over politics. Trump didn't need to humiliate his opponents. They did it to themselves. By standing firm, by prioritizing the American family, he exposed an entire system that's built on manipulation and media spin. And now, as the government reopens and the food stamp crisis eases, one truth echoes across the nation. The awakening has begun. America has seen the mask come off, and there's no going back. Like, subscribe, share. We'll see you next time.